Hello, welcome back. Let's start with prayer. That's just a good way to start every time. So we want to remember this part, that we want to say before each prayer. Lord, hear me when I call. Have mercy and answer me. And then we're going to do our hold my hand. Let's see if I can get it up so you can see it. Hold my hand. Okay, are we ready? Here we go. Lord, hear me when I call. Have mercy and answer me. Hold my hand. Lead the way. Help me be good every day. Let me know what's wrong and right. Keep me safe all through the night. Let me know what you have planned. Lead me, Lord. Hold my hand. Oh, I love that one. We're going to do that one one more lesson, and then I'll start doing the other ones so that I can hit your favorite ones too. Okay, I need you to sit up straight, and I want you to warm your vocal folds. Those are tiny little muscles in our necks. And we're going to hum as my hand goes up. Ooh, you feel it come out your nose? The sound comes out of your nose when your mouth is closed. So I'll hum something, and then you hum it, or do it with me. I don't care. Do them both. Okay, so that warms up our vocal folds a little bit. I want to talk to you about singing. So we haven't done that as much as we should have. So we're going to sit up straight. And when we breathe, we're going to breathe in with our stomachs and not let our shoulders go up. So we want to breathe deeply. And we want to keep going as long as we can. But if you have to take a breath, go ahead. Okay. So are we sitting upright? Now we're going to add something to that humming. But we're not going to put them together yet. Let's just do them separately. First, we're going to buzz our lips. Even famous opera singers do this when they're warming up to do a concert. And I just thought that was so funny to learn because I thought it was a good warm-up. But it's professional singers do this. Take a big breath. Remember, our stomach goes out, our shoulders stay down. I can go a long time, can't I? Okay, so if you can't go a long time, go and just keep trying to do that, okay? Or you don't have to have any sound come out of your mouth. Just go. Would you do that with me? That makes my nose itch. Sit up straight, breath into the belly. I look pretty funny doing that. Have you ever put your face, most of you have, down in the water? So don't do this if you have bubble bath, because it's yucky. But if you have plain water bath, you put your face from your nose, to your chin down into the water, and you do that and it'll blow bubbles up. Okay, good job. Listen to our song that we've been working on. Now, let's sing it with soul bench. Ooh, I'm going to show you something. This is called a finger staff. Now a staff is one of these things. How many lines does it have? Count them. It's got 5 lines. How many spaces? And 4 spaces. Well, most of us, luckily, have 5 fingers. The fingers are the lines, and the space between them are going to be the spaces between those lines. Okay? So we're going to do me, me, me. Let me make sure I have the right note. Me, me, me. No, I didn't. Me, me, me. Me, 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 re, do. Ooh, we went line, line, line. Line, 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 space, line. Did we do that? Let's try it again. Me, 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 re, do. Me, 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 re. Me, 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 re, do. Me, me, re, do. Now let me do it on a staff. And this is what it meant. Okay, so the middle line is in this song is me. Me, re, do. Me, re, me, re, do. Me, re, do. Good job. We'll talk more about that later. Okay. You know what? We need to work on the books of the Bible. I have not been doing them. I have been focused on other things. So let's do these. I'll read, you read. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Ooh, that's a hard word. Look at my mouth. Thessalonians. Thessalonians. Let's try it again. 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st Timothy, 2nd Timothy, Titus and Philemon. I finally got the rest on. Hebrews, James. And that's as far as we're going to go today with our singing. Excuse me, it's allergy season. I don't mean to itch my nose, but I do all the time. Now, the starting note on that one. Math. Yeah, I lost it. Hang on. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, there we go, ready, and Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, and Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians and Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, oh, I do. 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, oh, I do it again. I have to learn that one. I don't know it very well. Now it's 1st Timothy, then it's 2nd Timothy, Titus and Philemon, Hebrews, James. Now, did you notice I was lifting up, and I practiced the Thessalonians, but I have to practice more. Okay, so we have the same note here. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, and we go down, and Romans. Okay, here we go. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, and Romans. 1st and 2nd Corinthians, so that stays on the same note like these did. Galatians and Ephesians. You notice it goes up higher. And then these two are kind of high. Philippians, Colossians, and I'll work on my Thessalonians. Okay, I think our voices are warmed up. I think we are ready to start with our Bible story. And let's do it. We are going to talk about the Last Supper. Now, this happened during something called Holy Week. And I'm going to tell you about Holy Week next time. But I had a lot to say about the Last Supper, so I wanted to do it first, even though it didn't happen first. It was later. Well, it was time for Jesus to do what he had come to do on earth. So they went to Jerusalem, and we'll talk about that next week. And he told 3 of his apostles to go get this meal ready called Passover. Now, Passover is a Jewish celebration, and they still celebrate it today. And it's where they remember that Moses took them out of slavery and took them to the promised land. So this is the Passover feast. This is during Jewish times, so it's the Passover feast. And here's the story. I just want you to hear this story. I think it is such a good story. So Jesus, whoops, can I get you to where you can see it? Let's do that. Ooh, let's do this. Is that better? I think that's better. So Jesus had told his apostles to go prepare the Passover meal, which is a very important meal in Jewish tradition. And he loved them. He loved his disciples, just like he loves us. And he wanted to have a special last meal with them. So they went, and Jesus did something rather special. He took off his outer robe and he put a towel on. And then he poured water out of a pitcher into a bowl where people's feet would get clean. And to wash a person's feet was very humble. That you're lifting that other person up and kind of you're being down here a little bit. So it's humble. We'll talk about that word some more later. We did talk about it in our earlier lesson. So he was washing their feet because they all wore sandals, and it was very dusty and dirty. So they would always come somewhere and their feet would be dirty. So the host or hostess would wash the feet. Well, he was going around and he was washing their feet and talking to them, and he would dry their feet. Very humble thing to do for your guests. They were his guests. Well, we get to Peter, and you know Peter? People kind of like him because he's a big mouth. And he goes, "You're not going to wash my feet, Lord. I need to wash your feet. You're the Lord." And Jesus said, "If you don't let me wash your feet, I can have no part of you." And Peter said, "Oh, no, that's not right. Well, then wash my head and my hands also." And Jesus said, "No, Peter, I just want to wash your feet. You've already cleaned yourself up. That doesn't need cleaning. It's just your feet." And so Peter finally felt a little humble. He understood Jesus' humility. And Jesus is doing this because he wants his disciples to copy him. And he's humble. That's weird for part of God to be humble. But he's humble. And he wanted to teach them humility so that when they're out telling people about him, they'll sound loving, which is what he wanted. Well, then they ate their meal. And if you want to look up online all the things they eat at a Passover meal that they still do today and see what they all mean. The only one I can think of right now is the bitter herbs, and that they eat some bitter herbs, and that reminds them that they were taken out of slavery. And slavery is a pretty bitter thing. So he takes a pitcher with wine in it, and then he has a piece of unleavened bread. That means the bread hasn't risen. It's flat, okay? So he takes the bread and he tears it up, and each of them have some. And he said, "I want you to eat this to remember my body that I gave for you." He didn't know what he was talking about. Okay, And then he poured wine into the cup. Back then, they didn't have clean water all the time, and their wine started out as grape juice. So it wasn't to feel happy and get drunk. That's not what it was for. It was the grape of the vine, and it's what all people had. They had bread and they had some wine. So everybody could celebrate this supper. So he breaks the bread and he passes it out and he says, "This is my body, which is broken for you." Then he pours the wine in a cup and he tells them all to take a sip. And he says, this represents my blood as my promise to you that I will take care of you. And they didn't quite understand, but they did it. They were obedient. They took the bread and they drank the wine. And that's something that we do in churches today. It's called communion. Usually the pastor breaks the bread and blesses it, which is what Jesus did. And we each get a little tiny piece of bread, and we're to remember that Jesus gave his body. And then we get a little tiny bit of grape juice. Some people use wine. It doesn't matter as long as you think of Jesus' blood, Jesus' body and his blood. And he had to be a sacrifice. In Jewish times, God required a perfect lamb or young bull or dove, or those are the only three I can think of, to be sacrificed for their sins. They would go once a year to the temple in Jerusalem, and then their sins were forgiven for the year. Well, we do this in my church. We do it every week. Every time we get together, and sometimes for special things, we eat the bread, the unleavened flat bread, and we drink the cup, and we remember Jesus' sacrifice for us. So that's what the Last Supper is. And it is so special. Now, if your church doesn't do it every week, no worries. There's no place in the Bible where it says do it once a week. There's no place. It's just that scholars have figured out that they think the early church people that we'll talk about later too, that they did it once a week. So that's why we do it once a week. Wow, that is a heavy story, but it's a wonderful story so that we can celebrate the life of Jesus my church every Sunday. Your church may be different. Okay, we're going to hear some more about the Lord's Supper next week. And I hope you have a good week. Let's end with our traditional song, because that one is to remind us that God has no limitations. Okay, ready? My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. My God can make everything new. The mountains are his, the rivers are his, the stars are his handiwork too. God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do for you and you and you and you and you and me. Okay, we'll see you next time. God bless.